So today is Friday. As you watch this, the European Championships were already underway, and fans are no doubt displaying the sort of bonhomie and love for their fellow man that we've come to expect in the build-up towards the event. Alas, however, as I speak into this mic, it's not Friday. It's a grey and football-less Monday out there, and I'm trying to rush this video out as quick as boiled asparagus in time for the kick-off. But if I give it the full gun over the two halves, then I'm sure I'll get the right result. As Big One Atkinson once said, it's all about the two M's, movement and positioning. Onwards then to our first Amiga review. While there were a lot of football games on the Amiga, really there was only one, and that was Sensible Soccer. Versions of Sensi remained at or near the top of the charts from the game's first release in '92 until the computer's death a few years later. It took the ball from kick-off and ran with it. Best football game ever? Undoubtedly. We'll probably be seeing Sensi in a later review. Not that other football games didn't see success, there were plenty out there, although a great deal were based around the management side of things. The king of footy management games, Championship Manager, started here. But of all the pretenders out there, one strikes me as particularly interesting. Croteam's Football Glory, released in very early 1995. Why so interesting? Well, it kind of reminds me of a certain game. I just can't think of the title at the moment. Okay, let's not pretend. The game is clearly inspired by Sensible Soccer in a very big way indeed. Sensi played even more of a role in the game's hype than the game itself did because of the clear similarities. Perhaps inspired isn't the right word though. Croteam themselves didn't really try to feign ignorance, and all but said that what they wanted to do was to beat Sensi at its own game. Something that certainly takes some balls, if you pardon the pun. Improving on Sensible Soccer in their eyes was simply a case of adding more moves, bigger players, and more personality. Extravagant celebrations, chasing the ref, the magic spray, zoomed in replays,
magnificent goal!
volleys, bicycle kicks, streakers. Wait, streakers? Yes, streakers were clearly the answer to everything. With the addition of a buxom blonde suddenly running onto the pitch, Football Glory could do the unthinkable, kill the kin, and take the throne. Now, I owned Football Glory back in the day, and I used to really like it in '95. It's certainly quite zany at points, but although what humour is there gets old pretty sharpish, it's not exactly an annoyance, and it was certainly very different from the norm. The silly humour was, in a way, endearing. However, as much as the game has some rather, shall we say, eccentric features, it lives and dies on how it plays football, especially nowadays. So, the first obvious question: was the game a Sensi beater? No, it wasn't, and it wasn't even close. The difference in the main is one of elegance. Croteam honestly did a very good job of making a game that moved even faster than Sensi, but by adding so many extra details and flourishes, they ignored the fundamentals that made Sensi what it was. Mainly, they forgot that speed wasn't really what Sensi was about, and they made a game that was actually much too fast. It's more like Kick-Off in that regard, and Kick-Off hasn't got anything on Sensi either. Because the game moves too fast, it can get quite hoofy. Sometimes all you can do is take the Alex McLeish route and play long ball after long ball, because you don't have much time to do anything else. The game doesn't have Sensi's touch with passing, it's quite a lot rougher, the ball always going directly to a player's feet rather than in front of them a la Sensi. Getting a fluid move going is great when it happens, but it's rare. As mentioned, Croteam added a lot of new moves to the game, but aside from the somewhat useful bicycle kick, you don't get a chance to use them. It's very difficult to volley the ball or wide a tackle, and whether it happens or not is basically down to luck. Then there's the aftertouch, also inspired by Sensi, but Croteam thought that they'd beat them in that department simply by adding more of it. They didn't. Really, it's too much and it hurts the game. The aftertouch certainly makes it easier to score, both for you and for the computer. Results like these are not uncommon. Also, there's a few too many times where the computer's AI will go completely to pot. They can and will kick the ball directly into their own net, leaving me somewhat confused to say the least, although not ungrateful. And here's an unforgivable bug. It's the opening day of the League A season, circa 95, and I'm Man United against Southampton. A few minutes in, after Soton's wafer-thin defence gifts me a goal, I decide I can't be arsed with the league and hit the escape button. But back in the league screen, according to the game, I won the match 1-0. Yep, so long as you're in the lead in a match, this game actually does have a win button.
Unbelievable, Jeff. It's amazing.
It probably seems as though I don't like the game at all, but I actually still enjoy it quite a lot. Now I admit that a lot of that does have to do with nostalgia, but even if it is rough around the edges and certainly not preferable to Sensi, it does make for a fine alternative. I like playing around with the ridiculous aftertouch or trying to score magnificent goals. And frankly, when an old football game is still not too bad to play, nearly 20 years later, it's done a good job. It's easily the best sensible soccer game out there that isn't called Sensible Soccer. There's even a 1998 sequel called Five-a-Side Soccer that provides something we don't see nearly enough of in footy games of today. Indoor football! In the end, Football Glory wasn't a bad attempt at trying to wrest the crown from Sensi. It didn't do too bad critically, although CU Amiga's 95% was somewhat over the top, and it did well in the charts. At least until Sensible Software's lawyers knocked on Croteam's door. The resulting legal pressure meant that the game was pulled from the shelves, and although the matter was settled and the game re-released later in the year, Football Glory had lost any momentum it had, and so it sank. The end. For that game, at least. But it wasn't the end for Croteam, who in 2001 would release a very fun and very successful FPS by the name of... Wait. Is that screaming I hear in the distance? Oh, shit!